Work Package 6 is on the impact assessment of trade. Researchers in this work package study the impact of trade policies, trade measures, and targeted trade interventions on different economic attributes such as jobs or employment, labor, wages, value-added output, and of course trade itself, imports and exports. A lot of this work has actually become more important in the wake of the recent financial crisis, where countries have now begun to resort to greater use of non-tariff barriers to trade. One form of this discrimination is discrimination in the award of public contracts to domestic and foreign suppliers. Services also increasingly account for a great share of output compared to GDP in most countries of the world, but services trade is still a lot less compared to goods trade globally. One of the reasons for this is that services trade still tends to be heavily restricted. So another aspect of my research in Work Package 6 is to study the impact of this regulation in services trade and also in countries' propensities to negotiate trade agreements. And one important issue for us researchers is to find out what is the impact of regulation in determining countries' propensities to negotiate services trade agreements, and also what is the role of services regulation in general in economics. One of the methodological toolkits that we use in Work Package 6 is known as the gravity model, which economists have taken from the law of gravity in physics, the theory of gravity. Essentially, the gravitation force between any two planets I and j is equal to what is known as the gravitation constant, the mass of the two planets divided by the square of the distance between the two planets. In a similar way in economics, we say that exports from country I to country j depend on the GDP of countries I and j and divided by the distance between these two countries. Now we can introduce different policy variables in this equation to find out what the impact of those policy variables has been on the exports from I to j. So for instance, if you wanted to find out whether a trade agreement has actually increased exports from I to j, we can do that. And diagrammatically, what we would be doing is, if we have exports from I to j here on the y-axis, and we have time in years here, and we have a plot like this, and we find that the agreement was actually negotiated at this point in time, we can, using different economics techniques such as difference in difference analysis, find out to what extent this agreement has actually led to an increase in exports beyond this point. So this in a sense describes some of the methodological toolkit that we use in Work Package 6.